Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is the second video on how to design a Fender Telecaster in Fusion 360. If you haven't seen the first video, click on the info button in the upper right corner. My videos are step-by-step tutorials, so it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a seasoned pro in Fusion, there's stuff in here for everybody. If you want to see more of these videos, please press the subscribe button, and if you like it, give it a thumbs up. So here's where we stand at the end of the first video. We have our neck profiled basically from fret 1 position to fret 12, and we've also created a scale in a separate component showing all of the fret positions and also showing the bridge and nut position. So in this video we're going to extend the neck towards the body and create the heel. I think the first thing I'm going to do is lock down the neck. We locked down the scale already, but we don't want to be able to accidentally move this neck around in 3D space. So I'm going to right click on the component and select ground, and now if I try to move it, it's not going to move. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in another drawing, actually a drawing of the body, so that we can extend the neck the proper distance. So before I do that, I actually want to create another component because I want to put that body canvas inside the guitar body component. So I will create a new component and name it body. And that component is automatically activated by Fusion. So now when we insert another canvas, it's going to go inside that component. So I'll go to my plans here and pick Telecaster body, and I'll select a plane to insert that on, and just take this plane right here. And at the same time, I'm going to cut my opacity down a little bit. Okay, so this canvas came in pretty small, so obviously we need to scale this up. So the first thing I'm going to do is expand my body folder, expand my canvases, and there's the canvas that I want to calibrate. So I will right click, calibrate, look at it from the very top, and now it's just a function of trying to find a decently long measurement here to calibrate from. I think I'm going to use this one right here. So I'm in my calibrate. I've got this crosshair here, and I've got the 2 points that I want to calibrate to in sight. So I'm going to click on one of them and then click on a second one and then type in that measurement. So 7.370 inches. And I'll press enter. So now we've got a scaled up body. Let me just check it. Let me just verify one of these measurements is close. I'll go back and calibrate again. And click on this side. And then click on this side. And we've got 7.36 and a fraction. So we're fine there. I'm going to hit escape. All right. So now we want to actually move this body in the proper position relative to the scale. So I'm going to turn the scale on. And one of the things you can see is the scale actually has an ending here, which is our bridge position. And the drawing also has a bridge position, which is this line right here. So I'm going to activate the top level component just so that we can see a little bit better both the drawing and the scale. And I think I'm going to go back in there and change back into the canvas and change the opacity, make it a little bit stronger here. Okay, so now we can see both the scale and the drawing. And we want to do two things. We want to align this center line in the drawing to our center line of the scale. And then we want to align this vertical line here, which is the bridge line, to our bridge in our scale component. So I'm going to right click on our canvas, go to Edit Canvas, And I think the first thing I'll do is to center it. So I'm going to move this up and actually zoom in quite a bit so we can see our center line and get that right there. Okay. So now we want to move it horizontally. And let's see. There's our bridge line in green, and I'll zoom in here to get this pretty accurate. Right about there. So click on OK. So now our canvas is aligned to our scale. All right. So the next step is to extend this neck to this point in our drawing. So I think what I'm going to do is actually create a sketch inside the body component. So I'll activate that and I'll create a new sketch. And so basically I'm sketching right on top of this drawing. Oops, I got into new component there instead of new sketch. All right, let me try that again. We're in the body component. I'll create a new sketch. And now it's asking me what plane to put it on. I'm going to do the same plane as the top of the neck. Okay. Now, this is the line that we want to get in the sketch initially. And we want this line to start from our center scale line. Okay. Which is a little hard to see here because I changed the opacity again of that drawing. So let me get out of the sketch and one more time get into this canvas and edit it and turn the opacity way down. Okay. So now I think we're going to be able to see our center line right there. And we're also going to be able to see this end of the neck, the heel end of the neck. So the next thing we want to do is to draw a vertical line over this drawing to represent the heel end of the neck. But I want to do that sketch inside my neck component. So I'm going to activate that neck component. I'll collapse the body down and then expand my neck out so I can see what's going on. All right, so then we'll create a sketch. And the sketch plane is going to be the top of the neck, so I'll click there. And now we get the drawing back in view. So if I go get my line tool now, and if I hover over our center line, which is in the scale sketch, you can see that I get an X. I get an intersection with that center line. So I'm going to click there, and I'm going to come up vertical and go beyond the half width of the heel. And click again, and then I'll click in this little check mark, which is eluding me. There it is. Then I'm going to start again in the center, click there, and go down vertically beyond the width, and click there, and check mark. So now you can see we've got a vertical line that aligns with the drawing. If you don't quite get it there, I guess I could tweak that a little bit. I'm going to click and shift click on that line and then press M for move, and in the move tool I can actually move both of those line segments around a little bit. So if I zoom in, I can see, I can get that exactly on the right spot in the drawing. Okay, so I'll click OK. So now that's going to be where we essentially extrude our neck, our existing neck, out to this line. So let's go ahead and finish the sketch, and I'm going to go over to the browser and click in that sketch, wait a second, click a second time, and then name that heel. We're actually going to put more stuff in that sketch. That's just the start of our heel. All right, so now let's orbit up a little bit, and we can see our 3D body of our neck. And now you might think, oh, let's just extrude this to this line. But if you do an extrusion, you're going to get a straight profile. The neck is going to be just as wide here as it is here, but in reality, the neck continues its taper to this point. So Fusion has a feature that will do that quite nicely. It's called offset faces. So if I click on there, I can select the face I want to offset, and then I can drag it out. And this is getting wider as we go. But I don't seem to be able to snap to this line. And I do see that I've got a distance here in the dialog box. So I really need the distance from this line to the end, which we can derive. So I'm going to cancel out of offset face, and I'm going to go into my inspect measure, and I will click on this line and then this line, and I'm going to get a length of 5.385. Instead of writing that down or trying to memorize it, I'm just going to click in the dialog box, and that will that will copy that value so that we can paste it later on. So I'll close, and I'll go back to offset faces, select the face we want to offset, start it in the proper direction, and then I'm just going to do a Control V, which is going to paste that value in, and click on OK. So now we've got our tapered neck. It is actually wider here than it is here. And let's look at it straight on from the top. And one thing that I notice is the neck is actually a little bit wider than the pocket in the body that's going to receive it. So how do we fix that? Well, that's actually a lot easier than you would think. We're going to go back to the fret 12 profile and actually change the width of that profile very slightly. And then Fusion will automatically redo the loft from fret 1 to fret 12 and automatically do the offset faces that we just did. So all we need to do is find the proper sketch, which is our F12 profile. And this is a good example of why you want to name your sketches. You don't want to be looking at sketch 1, 2, 3 here and figure out, well, which one is which. Now I know. F12 profile is what I want. So I click, right click, edit sketch, and I'm in my F12 profile. But I can also see my F1 profile. So I don't want to accidentally select that. So I'm going to hide that sketch. Okay. Now, there's a measurement here, which is half the width of this profile. So I'm going to double click on that and then just ever so slightly change that to 1.04. You can see that the profile width changed a little bit. And I'll finish the sketch. And now let's take a look and see if we look straight on from the top. Let's see how we stand now. You can see that the neck got a little narrower, but it's still a little too wide. So let's go back to our F12 profile sketch, edit that, and let's change that to 1.03. So a bit of a trial and error thing here, but not too hard to do this. Again, looking at the top, and to me that looks perfect. That taper comes right in and matches the drawing absolutely perfectly. So the next thing we want to do is bring in another drawing, and this is going to be the profile of the heel that we're going to extrude. So I'm going to go to Insert Canvas, and I will pick my Tele Heel and do an insert. And now Fusion wants to know what face to put it on, so I'm going to select this plane here in our origin. And then I can see this drawing here. So I'm going to click OK, because the first thing we want to do is go back in and calibrate it. So here's my new canvas, Tele Heel. So I'll right click, calibrate, take a look at it from the very top, and zoom in and calibrate using this measurement. So I'm clicking here, I'm clicking here, and then typing in 3.438. Okay. So we've got a new drawing that's properly scaled, and now we want to move it. So I'll right click and do an edit canvas. First thing is I want to line it up to the center. It looks like it's pretty darn close. We'll tweak it just a little bit, get it on our center line. Okay, and then we want to bring this over and basically align this side of the canvas to our drawing here. So I'm going to turn off some of these other canvases that are getting in our way. In fact, I'm just going to hide the entire body component that has that body canvas in it. So I'll bring this over and zoom in a whole bunch and align to the end of the heel. So the drawing and the 3D model align pretty nicely now, and we've got it nicely centered. So I'm going to click on OK. So now we're going to define the heel profile in a new sketch. So I'll go up to Create Sketch, and we'll select the top of the neck as the position of this sketch. So now we actually want to project in the outline of this body into our sketch. So let's go ahead and hide our canvases and hit P for project. And then we can select an entire body here by hovering over this and click OK. So now if we hide the body, we can see that we have the outline of the body in our sketch. And we can turn our canvases back on. Okay, so now we have what we need to finish this sketch out. We're going to start from the center line, and we're going to do a spline that goes back to this outer part of the neck. So I'll get my spline tool, and I want to make sure that I intersect with my midline here. So I'll click there, and then just kind of estimate where that starts right here. Click a second time and click in my check mark. Now we're going to mirror this spline to the other side to get symmetry. So again, I want to make this tangent handle vertical. So I'll click on the tangent handle and go to my horizontal vertical constraint. And then I hit escape to get out of that constraint. And now you can see I can't change that angle. Okay, but I am having trouble with just these two tangent handles to kind of define this curve, which is a little bit more complex than we can deal with this spline. So one thing you can do is click on the spline and then right click and insert a new spline point. And then this crosshair comes up and allows you to insert that point anywhere you want. Okay, so I'll hit escape to get out of that insert mode. And now I can actually move that point around anywhere that I like. I could put it up here. I'm going to put it right in the midpoint and see if we can deal with this now. But again, we've got a canvas that's a little too strong to be able to see our lines. So I'm going to finish the sketch. I'll go into our canvas and edit it and change our opacity down to somewhere around 10%. Okay, so now we can see what's going on. All right, so let's go back to our sketch. It's just called Sketch 5 right now. So I'll right click and edit it. Click on our line here. And you see we've got a lot of flashing going on. It's Fusion is trying to select parts of our scale. So I'm actually going to hide the scale, and that solved that little issue. Okay, so now can we get this spline to kind of match our drawing? So let's work with this tangent handle here, and that's pretty good right there. I like that. Okay, so we can now mirror that about this center line and get perfect symmetry here. So I'm going to go to the mirror command, select our spline, and then click on mirror line in the dialog box and select our center line, and it gets mirrored to the other side. So I'll click on OK. And now when I hover over this profile, you can see it's kind of divided up into 4 parts. So when we did our projection, we actually got some extra lines projected in there that we don't necessarily want. So I'm going to click on this vertical line and hit the delete key. And then this line, I'm also going to delete. Okay, so now, oh, looks like we still have one. So if I right click on that and do a delete, that actually worked. Okay. So we have a single profile here, and I think our sketch is done. So I'm going to finish out of the sketch. Now remember, we hid our bodies a little bit while ago, so I'm going to unhide the neck body so we can see what's going on. And I'm actually going to extrude this downward, and the thickness is going to be 3/4 of an inch. So I will go to Extrude, select the profile I want, push it down. Now Fusion defaulted to a cut mode here, which is the red you see. So I'm actually going to change that to join. So this extrusion is going to join with the neck body. And the distance we want is negative, so I'm going to put negative 0.75 and press enter. And then let's take a look. So let's do a little bit of cleanup here. We have a couple of extra lines that are showing up, which are in sketches. So let's turn our sketches off on our neck, and then I can still kind of see a ghosting here of some other things. So let's turn our canvases off, and there's our body. So we've got our neck, which flares out as we go towards the end of the heel. The one thing we still need to do is a curvature there. So let's bring our heel canvas back up, and let's take a look at it from the very top. And if we zoom in, we can see exactly what needs to be done. So since this is a solid body, we can actually do this as a fillet. So in order to do that, I'm going to first go to the fillet command, and then click on this vertical line and this vertical line. So now these fillets will be identical. And I can actually push this in and define the radius here, which in the plan was 1/4 of an inch. So let me type that in and see what it looks like. So there's our 1/4 inch radius. Let's view it from the top and spin around here so the neck's to the right. And that looks really good. So let's do a quick timeline review, and then we'll be done with this video. So down here in the timeline, I'm going to rewind just after the loft that we did, which was the end of the first video. So the first operation we did was we pinned the neck component so that that doesn't automatically get moved using the ground command. Then we created a new component, which is the body. We did that because we want to put this canvas into the body. And if I open up the canvas folder, I can show you the canvas that we brought in. Next thing we did was a sketch on that canvas. A little hard to see, but I'll hover over those two lines. And that's basically just the end of the heel. Then we did an offset faces to basically extrude the neck, but keep its profile, to keep its tapering going up to that end point. Then we brought in another canvas. I'm going to hide the body canvas so we can see it. We brought in another canvas, which is the heel profile. Did a sketch on top of that, and then extruded that down by 3/4 of an inch, and then used the fillet command to round things over. So a little bit of cleanup here. We didn't name this sketch, and this is really our heel sketch. I'm going to rename this one first and call this heel end, which is that, well, I'll call it heel end line, a little bit more descriptive. And then rename sketch 5 to heel. And let's see, we probably want to hide our sketches going forward, and they'll collapse. And we want to hide our canvases, collapse that. And then we can clean up our browser, and we are done with video 2.